All right, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Dash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well. And also Shalom and salutations to the fellow brethren and laborers that are laboring in this work as well. So I'm back once again through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Shai with another lesson. And this lesson that I'm going to be getting into is inspired, it was inspired by Alexander's opis mutiny speech, man. I was watching that, and a few precepts came to mind. You see, so what came to mind was the fact that how Alexander the Great, that speech that motivated his whole army, was really inspired by prophecy. The fact that he was able even to make that speech, because he had to have a motive, and he had to have a reason to say this speech with such confidence, man. Which that speech, basically summarizing it, was when Alexander and his men, his men were basically growing tired and weary of the conquest, of Alexander's conquest. But that speech, once it was made, it motivated them, and a few things he mentioned in the speech was that how he did this and that, he did greater works than his father, you see. And it was almost like he was pushing, he wanted to be remembered in history. That's what he basically came down to. If you want to be remembered in history, as a coward, because his men wanted to go back. That's what he told him. If you want to be remembered in history as a coward, just turn back now, You see, but the fact that he was able to make the speech so it's the fact that he was moved, to make the speech is because of his confidence in prophecy. You see, matter of fact, let me start here, real quick. 2nd Ezra 15, because Alexander knew who he was in biblical prophecy. It was shown to him by an Israelite high priest. You see, and I'm going to get that account as well in the Josephus, man. But first, let me get this in 2nd Ezra 15, and I'm going to start out verse 1. It says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true." You see, so the words of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai, they're faithful and true, man. So these words of prophecy, these prophetic words of Yahweh Bashim Shai, they're faithful and true. Meaning, you're not going to get confounded by these words, if you put your trust in them. And first and foremost, only Israelites, the nation of Israel, which consists of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they would resonate with these words. Only them alone, man, and no other nation. You see? But, it even took belief for Alexander to believe that he was that goat, So let's matter of fact, let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. This is in the Josephus. I'm not gonna build it up as much, but I'm just gonna try to get to the point as much as possible. And if just to summarize this, set the stage, so to speak, you had Alexander, who was on a conquest, matter of fact, let's just get it. I'm gonna pick up at a point where, it's somewhat setting the stage. So, okay, I'm gonna start here, 11:320. It says, "So when he had, with a good deal of pains during the siege, taken Tyre, he settled its affairs. He came to the city of Gaza and besieged both the city and him that was governor of the garrisons, whose name was Babemus. But it says, but Sanballat thought that he had now gotten a proper opportunity to make his attempt. So he renounced Darius, and taking with him 7,000 of his subjects, came to Alexander, and finding him beginning the siege of Tyre, he said to him that he delivered up to him these men who came out of the places under his dominion, and he did gladly accept of him for his lord instead of Darius. You see, so it says when Alexander had received him kindly, Sanballat took courage and took to him about his present affairs. He told him that he had a son-in-law, Manasseh, who was brother to a high priest, Jaddus, and that there were many others of his own nation now with him, that were desirous to have a temple in the places subject to him, so that it would be for the king's advantage to have the strength of the Jews or the Israelites divided in two parts, lest when the nation is of one mind and united upon any attempt of innovation, it proved troublesome to the kings, as it had formerly proved to the kings of Assyria. It says, whereupon Alexander gave Sanballat leave so to do, who used the utmost diligence and built the temple and made Manasseh the priest, and deemed it a great reward that his daughter's children should have the dignity. It says, but when the 17 months of the siege of Tyre were over, and the 2 months of the siege of Gaza, Sanballat died. It says, now Alexander, when he had taken Gaza, made haste to go up to Jerusalem, and Jaddus, the high priest, when he had heard that, was in agony and under terror, as not knowing how he should meet the Macedonians, since the king was displeased at his foregoing disobedience. Because if you read earlier on, the high priest, Alexander sent messages to him with a particular message, but the high priest had a covenant with another king. I believe that was a Persian king, not to do certain things. And he didn't want to, the priest didn't want to break that covenant. So he basically disannulled what Alexander sent for the priest to do, hence the disobedience. That's why the king was afraid when he heard about Alexander's arrival. Reading on, it says, therefore he ordained that the people should make supplications and should join with him in offering sacrifice to the Most High, whom he besought to protect that nation and to deliver them from the perils that were coming upon them. So the priest got afraid. So what he did was, he told the people, let's pray together and sacrifice unto the Most High that Alexander is gonna have mercy on him, and not slay me, because the king was afraid that Alexander was gonna kill him, man. It says, going on, 327. It says, whereupon the Most High warned him in a dream. So it says, whereupon the Most High warned him in a dream, which came upon him after he had offered sacrifice, that he should take courage and adorn the city and open the gates, that the rest should appear in white garments, but that he should, it says, but that he and the priest should meet the king in the habits proper to their order, without the dread of any ill consequences, which the providence of the Most High would prevent. So, the Most High answered the high priest's prayers, man, and sacrifices by sending him a dream of what to do at the arrival of Alexander. And that's how the Most High deals, man. That's one way the Lord deals, by sending dreams and visions, man. Matter of fact, let me get this real quick in the book of Job. Job 33 and verse 15. It says, in a dream and a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. You see, so that's what the Lord did with that high priest. While the high priest was asleep, the Lord opened his ears and sealed his instructions on what to do, for the prayer and supplication he made. Verse 17, that he may withdraw men from his purpose and hide pride from man. You see that? And a lot of these dreams, these prophetic things, or these prophetic events, they were given to by dreams, like Daniel, man. The summary of the kingdoms that would rule, that was given to Daniel in a dream, man. But let's read on. It says, I'm gonna read that again. It says, whereupon the Most High warned him in a dream, which came upon him after he had offered sacrifice, that he should take courage and adorn the city. So don't fear Alexander, man, because the Lord is with you. That's what the Lord is telling him. Do this and that, adorn the city, open the gates, that the rest should appear in white garments, but that he and the priest should meet the king in the habits proper to their order, without the dread of any ill consequences. So don't try to take up arms and try to fight him. No ill consequences. Don't do anything out of order, which the providence of the Most High will prevent. Reading on, it says, upon which, when he rose from sleep, he greatly rejoiced and declared to all the warning he had received from the Most High, according to which dream he acted entirely, and so waited for the coming of the king. It says, and when Jadorus understood that Alexander was not far from the city, he went out in precision with the priests and the multitude of the citizens, and the precision was vulnerable, meaning it wasn't, it didn't look militant. It looked like, these men weren't coming to battle, because if they would have gave off that image, Alexander probably would have got militant, and slain them, but the Lord was with them. It says, and the manner of it, different from that of other nations, it reached to a place called Sappha, which name translated into Greek signifies a prospect. For you have thence a prospect between both of Jerusalem and of the temple. It says, and when the Phoenicians and the Sumerians that followed him thought they should have liberty to plunder the city and torment the high priest to death, which the king's displeasure fairly promised them, the very reverse of it happened. So these Phoenicians and Sumerians, they thought Alexander was coming to do away with the high priest, because of what happened, between the priest and Alexander. But guess what happened? It says the very reverse of it happened. Why did this happen? Why was Alexander not wroth with the high priest? We're going to read on. It says, for Alexander, when he saw the multitude at a distance in white garments, while the priest stood clothed in fine linen, and the high priest in purple and scarlet clothing, with his mitre on his head, having the golden plate whereupon the name of the Most High was engraved, he approached by himself and adorned that name, and first saluted the high priest. So Alexander saluted, the high priest. It says, reading on, the Jews also did altogether with one voice saluted Alexander, and encompassed him about. Whereupon the kings of Syria and the rest were surprised at what Alexander had done, and supposed him disordered in his mind. So they were surprised because that priest disobeyed his Alexander's command, or whatever, man. Because to do that at that time, you would be put to death. That's why everybody was surprised. Like, why is this guy acting like this? Is this guy a madman? Reading on, it says, however, Parmenion alone went up to him and asked him how it came to pass that when all the others adorned him, he should adorn the high priest of the Jews or of the Israelites. To whom he replied, I do not adorn him, but that the Most High who has honored him with his high priesthood. For I saw this very person in a dream, in this very habit, when I was at Dion in Macedonia, who, when I was considering with myself how I might obtain the dominion of Asia, exhorted me to make no delay, but boldly to pass over the sea thither, for that he would conduct my army and would give me the dominion over the Persians. So the reason why Alexander did not treat the high priest illy, is because he saw the Lord gave Alexander a dream of that same account, that he was in, that moment that he was in, how the high priest were adorned a certain way, they approached a certain way, they looked a certain way. He saw that in a dream, which signified what he would have dominion and power. You see? It goes on, it says, once it is that, having seen no other in that habit, and now seeing this person in it, and remembering that vision and exhortation which I had in my dream, I believe that I bring this army under the divine conduct, and shall therewith conquer Darius and destroy the power of the Persians, and that all things will succeed according to what is in mine own mind. So at this moment, Alexander's like, yo, this, he said divine conduct. His army's under divine conduct, meaning the Lord is basically guiding his army. There's a power that's guiding his army, the Most High. And Alexander was introduced to who this power was, which is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, through the high priest, man. Reading on, it says, when he had said this to Paramon, and had given the high priest his right hand, the priest ran along by him, and he came into the city. And when he went up into the temple, he offered sacrifice to the Most High according to the high priest's direction, and magnificently treated both the high priest and the priests. It says, so Alexander treated them with respect, man. The high priest. It says, and when the book of Daniel was showed him, wherein Daniel declared that one of the Greeks should destroy the empire of the Persians, he supposed that himself was the person intended. And as it says, and as he was then glad, he dismissed the multitude for the present. You see, it says, and but the next day he called to him and bid them ask what favors they please of him. So that same high priest, basically told, confirmed furthermore to Alexander that, you're that guy. There's a guy, that's written about in our scriptures, in our is prophetically written that he would take down the Persians. So Alexander supposed that it was him. Alexander knew that it was him, man. You see? So let's get some accounts of Alexander being mentioned in the book of Daniel. Basically, the priest breaking it down to him, man. So this is Daniel 7 and verse 6. And it reads, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. So this leopard that is referring to Alexander the Great. So this is what the priest meant by, in the book of Daniel, that man that would take down the Persians. You see? So let's get this in also Daniel. Matter of fact, let me grab Daniel 2 first. Daniel 2. Daniel 2 and verse 31, it says, thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Matter of fact, I want to get down to the interpretation. Verse 36, it says, this is the dream, and we will tell thee the interpretation thereof before the king. It says, thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the power of heaven had given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and had made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So this head of gold is symbolic to the Babylonian Empire, which was headed by Nebuchadnezzar at that time. Verse 39, it says, after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. It says, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So what is this second kingdom, which was inferior to the Babylonian kingdom. I believe, matter of fact, let me look up this word inferior. Oh, it says second class, a lesser, lower in rank, status, or quality. Gold is a lower quality. Slack is silver is a lower quality than gold, and that's what this kingdom, which was the Medo-Persian kingdom, is referred to. So this kingdom, which is the Medo-Persian kingdom, would overtake the Babylonian kingdom. But then after that, another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over the earth, would take over, the silver kingdom, which that brass is symbolic to Alexander the Great. Why? Because it says, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Alexander was the one that conquered the most land, or what would be known as the known world at that time. You see? So this was what the high priest was basically referring to. Let's also get this in Daniel 8 and verse 8. It says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. For it came and for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. So those notable ones are referring to Alexander's generals. You see, which are matter of fact, let me get this. First Maccabees, because First Maccabees also mentioned his generals, man. That's Maccabees 1. And verse 7. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied on the earth. You see, so these generals, or these four, what do they refer to? These four notable ones are referring to Seleucus, Ptolemy, Cassander, and Lasamachus. Those are Alexander's four generals. So this is what the priest was basically breaking down to Daniel, man. Slakia, to Alexander, showing him that this is you, and that's why Alexander was so confident, with his speech. That's why, he was sure, he wanted to keep going with the conquest, because he knew that, it's my turn. He basically owned his moment, man. Because evidence was given to him that, this is you. And he's like, that's me? Oh, yeah. And then he took that and ran with it, man. And hence that speech, they basically wrote down that was probably one of the greatest speeches ever. But that the inspiration of that speech came from the fact that he understood that he was in biblical prophecy. It was the Lord that actually allowed him to understand that, to open his mind up, to show him that this is him. See, so let me get this in Job. Job 32 and verse 8. It says, but there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. So the Lord is the one that allowed Alexander to even come across the priest, to show him that, this is you, and this is how much power you got at the time, man. You see? So let me close off here in the book of First Ezra. First Ezra. First Ezra 4 and verse 37. And it says, second Ezra. Second Ezra 4 and 37. It says, by measure hath he measured the times, and by number hath he numbered the times, and he doeth not move nor stir them, until the said measure be fulfilled. So Alexander understood that it was his time. You know, it was his time. He basically owned the moment and said, yo, I'm going to just keep going until it's over, man. Until my time comes to an end, which his time did come to an end after that speech, shortly after, man. He got hit with a disease, you see. And also, when the Lord sets an appointed time for a kingdom to rule, there's nothing you could do to try to rule or overrun that time, man. Like, for example, you had the Greeks, the Spartacus, Spartacus and his men. They tried to overtake the Roman Empire at that time, which they put up a good fight, man. They disturbed the Senate and so on and so forth, the Romans, but they couldn't. At the end, they couldn't do it. Why? Because the Lord does not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. Because their time was up, man. The Grecians' time was up, and it was time for the Romans to come in power, and hence the defeat of the rebellion of Spartacus and his men, man. You see? So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to say Kal Halayim La Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai Ba'ashim Ruchakudash for giving me the inspiration to do this lesson. And Lord willing, it was edifying. Until next time, Shalom.